Very good depiction of the early 80s. I like how all the the news sound bites were used, and the election happening in the background. All that really helped paint the picture, and helped carry the story along. I like how overall, just the overall color palette of it was very reflective of the times. Often when people wanted to pick the 80s, they'll, wanted to make it look like, bright neon and big hairdos, and it always looks very fake. But this looked very real. This looked the way it really did. It was, very sepia toned and very kind of, that kind of a look. So this was done really well. I like the, the dynamics of this. She's adopted. There's that conflict. There's the conflict of racial differences. There's, it's all this true crime style story.
There were so many interesting characters throughout this, that had a really great storyline and character arc. In particular, the female detective, Pierre was her last name, who had this wonderful, rich backstory. And, she was somebody who we wanted to know more about. And she was such an endearing character who was motivated and committed, and obviously going through her own personal struggles, but never letting it compromise the integrity of her work. Um, wow, just wonderful job. Um, the kind of twist at the ending, or the big reveal at the ending, was really satisfying as well. And I just feel like it took us on this journey. And I was like right there along with them, just wanting to get to the bottom of this. But more so, I wanted to um, learn more about these characters, because I truly cared about them. And you could just tell that there was so much richness to them, and there was so much under the surface.
I think the tension in this piece comes from all different types of places. There's tension between the investigators, there's tension between the missing girl's parents and the detectives, tension between the families, tension just all around. And I think that tension is also exacerbated by the way that this is filmed. It's shot on handheld, so there's just a lot of like stuff going on, especially when we see like chases happening, or we're panning from certain things to their like time. There was a specific shot that was like literally the person had to run to see the clock, and what time it was. I also liked the parts where they look direct to camera. I thought that was really interesting. um, so I think because there's so many dynamics happening and they're all being unspooled at like different times, but in a way that completely makes sense. I think it does like a really good job at the mystery, thriller, murder genre, in that you can really follow any thread, and want to know more about any specific thread if the other threads weren't like hitting as much or resonating as much. Truly, this is like, it's got something for everybody in here.
It's shot in handheld, so it gives a really frantic feeling. The tone is definitely a drama, but with a hint of sort of that suspenseful whodunit vibe. You have these two cops handling this investigation in two very different ways. One thinking he knows best because of his years of experience, the other bringing a new perspective as an outsider with her own unique experience. Very strong performances in this piece. You have this conflict between these two officers, which it creates this delicious dynamic. It's like a push and pull that is the undercurrent of everything. I get the sense that the um, female detective really relates to these teenage girls. She sees herself in them and finds this whole journey of self discovery through solving this case. And this case becomes, you know, a conflicting thing because it becomes much bigger for her than it is for everyone else, because I think she has this personal connection. And just funny stuff. Like, I know the pain of losing a wig. So just really relatable moments in there, like when she the taking it off, the it falling off and looking back and being like, oh, I want to get it, but I'm arresting someone. The handheld at certain points becomes its own character. It gives an interesting point of view. One scene that really comes to mind is when the officers come with the search warrant and the camera runs to the door to answer the door, and we run and open the door and see close up on the search warrant. It's just a very interesting perspective because it feels like the camera is, almost us sort of frantically involved in this world that they've created.
Really kind of, like, gritty and raw, it felt like, for example, like, when characters are running or something like that, the camera work is, like, really jolty as if the camera is also running, and then just even down to, like, the coloring where everything it wasn't super vibrant, it was a little bit, um, more muted, like, all of the colors and everything, which I thought worked so, so well because you're dealing with such dark raw material of like clearly this is a murder investigation, clearly something really really terrible has happened or at least they're trying to figure it out, but there's certainly like tones and there's certainly, hints about what has kind of transpired. And so I really liked that they kind of used this approach of even from the way that it was filmed, the shots that they were using and the editing.
I think there's quite a few interesting shots. For instance, when Sheriff Jonathan goes to arrest Megan's mom, Amy, the camera backs up from the house and the scene is generally silent, except for the diegetic noise in the background. Interesting enough, the last shots of the film happen to be the same shot with the backing up from house as Sherry and her mother's secrets are out. There is also a lot of close-ups. A close-up of Aida's car as she meets up Jonathan, a close-up of the fizz bubbling from Sherry's cup of water, some dynamic scenes such as when Aida takes off her wig and listens to recordings she does with Sherry and is crying by the fire and wakes up alluding to it all being a dream. I feel Aida has the most character development as we see all her insecurities and weaknesses come about as well as her tragic background, and we as an audience grow fond of her growth and development and hardships she's overcome. She feels very genuine and real and honestly one of the best written characters I've seen. I view her as the only pure one from the town. We also see her cry a lot and it shows us her vulnerable and weak side, which is also her strong side, for she feels deep with her cases and cares about her victims. Aida's backstory is really sad with her dad, and she connects to Sally, who kept secrets of her own. It almost makes me upset because of the depth of work Aida put into the case when her answer was right in front of her the entire time. A quote that resonated with me is when one of the characters mentions that people make up stories about religion to feel connected with people and all they want is to just talk. Maybe that's all this film is about.
But I really liked how it kind of seemed like you were sort of just there peeking in from the house somewhere in the house or wherever you were at. The conversation between, the girl and the cop in the police station and things like that, I thought were just really interesting. And also like some characters who I thought were just going to be maybe not so, just like one or two lines ended up being a little bit bigger. And it was kind of surprising. I really liked that. And I thought it was well cast as well. Really liked the lighting and the sepia tone, just so different from what you usually see in that it was like a period piece between 79 and 84, I think. But it was very understated. It was an over the top period where everything's in your face for that period. It's just very interesting writing. I thought it really made you think, and there was a lot of depth to all these characters, and it would actually be cool to see sort of a series on these characters, because I feel like there's a lot to discover with these characters and to go into. It was very interesting and it kept me intrigued, and I liked the pacing for the most part, taking time with the scenes. Sometimes I don't like that if it doesn't feel like it's getting us anywhere, but I felt like it was good in this instance. I really thought there was a lot going on, and I was definitely intrigued, and it kept me wondering throughout the whole thing.